Hey everyone, and welcome to the Best of 3 Call of Duty Esports Podcast. I'm your host, Josh, SalvationsElite. To my right is Sam, Bash_Bo3 on Twitter. And to our farthest right, per usual, is Rex Shady Nero. And guys, girls, ladies, and gents, we got a lot to talk about today, man. Rostermania is now officially in full swing when it comes to signings. And we're talking about some official announcements today from teams all ready for rosters. Holy moly. And we got a lot to talk over. Black Ops Cold War was revealed, multiplayer,
It was.
a lot more. But before we get to any of it, I've got to ask, guys, what is going on?
Ooh, Josh, I'm feeling like a glittering princess today, ready to play some baseball and swing for a home run, baby.
Some Daisy in Mario Baseball, baby. Let's go.
Woohoo.
Sam, Sam, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah? Excited?
It's officially sweatshirt weather.
Oh, it is. It is.
You get to hide all the
I mean, I do live in that all day long, all year long.
hide all the chunk. You know what I'm saying?
It's chunk. I don't know what you're saying. I'm an Olympic athlete.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Didn't know pizza eating was an Olympic sport.
I just had McDanks the other day.
Oh, yeah?
Oh,
Tough?
my
Tough?
gosh, dude.
I don't know. Did you get that
Quarter pounder.
Travis Scott?
Okay,
Ooh,
okay.
Did Cactus Jack sent you?
This
Yeah.
is one of my things that like I'm too scared to ask at this point because I don't know what it is.
Oh, no.
What Cactus
Oh,
Jack?
no.
It's just like that or the Travis Scott one.
The Travis Scott combo. You're just...
Should I just not even?
It's not... No.
Have you
No.
seen those memes that they talk about with like those kids, like Fortnite kids that go up? Like,
Yeah, I
hey,
know.
Cactus Jack sent me. And then the McDonald's employee's like, what?
And then they start blaring Travis Scott.
Oh, jeez.
But
I guess I'm
we got a lot
boomer.
to talk about today.
Yeah,
This is our
yeah.
most derailed intro probably ever.
It really was. Yeah.
But you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, shout out to everybody. And we appreciate the reviews on Apple Podcasts and the comments on YouTube. So speaking of reviews, we're going to read maybe one, maybe two. We'll see how we're feeling today.
Okay.
Smiley Face says, 5 stars, y'all are goats. Really though, y'all are the goats. I've only been into competitive COD since Black Ops 4, so I'm fairly new, but y'all's podcast I really can't get enough of and could listen to it for hours. Can't thank y'all enough for what y'all do. Keep killing it, and we'll always be a fan. Much love.
Jeez.
Big plays, baby.
Thanks
Big
so much,
plays.
Smiley
Warmed.
Face.
And Ty Thix, or Ty Thix, says, 5 stars, the man, the myth, and Rex Shady Nero. By far the most informative COD podcast ever. Found you on YouTube during the start of the season and in anticipation for Tuesday's show in Rex's voice grows like a flower through the backdrop of a rundown department store parking lot.
Wow.
The only
Yes.
issue is that I have an 8-hour workday and the show's only like an hour and a half. And then I'm forced to endure the agony of waiting another week without the best of 3 crew. So I followed you all on Twitter just to keep up.
Oh, wow.
P.S. Foremost the GOAT. Sam is always right. And Rex, deep down, you know.
Wow.
Ty Thix.
Wow, Ty
With
Thix.
the legendary
That's
review
funny.
right
you
there.
ended that with a banger, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, my word.
But holy moly.
Yeah, wow.
This couldn't be more packed show.
This
So
week.
without further ado, let's get right in to the news.
The Call of Duty News of the Week.
Just like this podcast started off with a bang, the news segment is starting off with a bang. We're going to be talking about Rostermania here in a second. It's going to kind of be its own segment again,
Yeah.
as it is kind of this time of year. But CDL, the Call of Duty League, is now officially on PC with a controller.
Ooh, baby, taking good steps towards the future. I love it.
That's
I'm
wild.
so happy.
They dropped the news at like 2 a.m.,
Yeah,
which
they
was
sure
really
did.
weird.
That was
sure did.
crazy.
People were making the memes of like, oh, finally the pros were able to see it, you know, like
Yeah.
they're awake at this time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, initial reactions, raw reactions to CDL on PC. Rex, fire away.
I love it. It's the future. Because PC it's just how it needs to be. Now, the debate between mouse, keyboard, controller, obviously we're going to stick to controller. That's where all our pros are at. That's where it's been at for a long time. But PC, just you can do so much more with PC. And it's only going to be a benefit for the future of CoD, competitive CoD.
Sam?
This was probably the last thing I expected. I'm pretty sure we did like our percentage chance of it being on PC, right? And I was like, oh, probably next year, maybe the year after that.
Well, because after the multiplayer stuff with PlayStation having the exclusive beta, and we all thought, oh, that must mean competitive must be in the deal too.
So,
but apparently it wasn't.
Yeah. So my actions are very similar to Rex. Like, it's just gonna be better with. Hopefully we can get an online pause feature.
Yep.
Tick rate servers, all of this stuff. So I'm very excited about the move.
It makes broadcasting the game a lot easier.
Yeah.
The viewership experience should be better overall with how they can broadcast it directly from people's PCs.
So
there are a lot of pros.
It's crazy.
But cheats.
Yeah, that's at the beginning. That's the biggest negative. I think that's why how we wanted to open up our show is talking about the pros and cons of it as a whole, and like discussing like how and the road that it could potentially take us on to like, is there a world where this opens up the mouse and keyboard in the next year or two to usher in? I saw like the meme on Reddit of like the Trojan horse, Activision pulling the Trojan horse, like mouse and key or a PC with controller, and inside is the mouse and keyboard. With the Trojan horse. So I don't know. I mean, initially, I would not be excited if we ever went to a mouse and keyboard format. I'm not a mouse and keyboard fan. I don't like watching mouse and keyboard esports. I like controllers.
What other esports do you watch?
That's right. There's a reason why I watch Call of Duty. There's a reason why I watch Call of Duty. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm not in love with it if we end up going PC to mouse and keyboard one day, but well, I don't know. I'm excited about controller. That's for sure. Yeah. So let's talk about some of the pros first, and then we'll hop over to the cons.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously off the rip, it's going to be like higher FPS. The FOV is now guaranteed for the pros, which is big. I mean, a lot of the pros already had it on PC and were playing it like playing Warzone on PC and stuff. I mean, what are your thoughts with that, like versus the PS5, and like where are you at with like should an AM be playing on a PS5 or should an AM try to buy a PC at this point? Like Sam, where are you at that?
I think we're gonna see basically the top AMs invest in PCs. I'm sure you're gonna see Singularity, War, FaZe Academy.
The guys who have legitimate shots at being a pro.
Being a pro they're gonna invest in it. Whether it's their orgs that are sponsoring them, gonna buy it for them. Whatever it is. However, you're thinking about AMs who are, top, 100, whatever. They may not have the money to do it, so they may just end up playing on either PS4, PS5, whatever it is, because now Challengers is crossplay. Which is
that was the other part of the news.
Kind of the other news was Challengers is now PC, Xbox, PS4, 5, whatever.
Which is really weird.
Really weird. Which could be a whole thing with it being online. Obviously, I don't know if it's gonna be like messy with whatever it is, but
it unites the esport, which is great.
It does.
I mean,
it is really cool. Like to be able to like. If you're in like a not so great situation, to be able just to play on a PS4 against other AMs, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
but you might be at a slight disadvantage, obviously, from FPS and the field of view. So.
I guess the biggest question people have is whether or not the PS5 or Black Ops Cold War will enable an FOV slider to pump up your FOV to whatever the PC players are playing on, or will there be an FOV lock for competitive at whatever this decided FOV there is. Rex, where you at with it with it all?
I think it's good. I mean, I would be concerned somewhat if I'm not on PC, but everyone's hyping up the PS5 and like what the PS5 is going to be able to provide. So a PS5 might be able to provide that higher FPS. I mean, once you're hitting like 120 and up, I don't know if it's going to make that much big of a difference. But if there's an FOV in the PS5, so like, I think you could still compete. If you're at the highest level, you for sure should get on PC just for like those minuscule things. But I still think people can make it playing on PS5. But I don't know if I would.
Right.
I don't know. Is PS4 going to be able to do it as well?
I think so.
I mean, based off the beta, they announced cross-generational play, but I don't know if that's going to translate to competitive for GBs. It might cap it at PS5 and Xbox X and PC. I don't know.
Well, if that's the case, I would get rid of the PS4 for sure, and at least move up to the PS5 because that FPS, like I think it does make a difference
that's
to a
matter.
certain level. Like once you hit like that 120 mark and up, it obviously makes a difference, but it's just not going to be.
And it depends on what Hertz servers we're playing on in custom games. If we're playing on 60 FPS custom Hertz servers, that would be, or 60 Hertz custom servers, that would be what we ideally need. Hopefully higher. It would be great if it's going to be 120 FPS. We'd love to have 120 Hertz servers, but that's probably unrealistic based on what we've heard about CoD. I mean, what we've seen in CoD, but I mean, the price is kind of like the other factor, I guess, for AMs trying to decide to switch. I mean, the PS5 is going to be either $400 or $500 probably, depending on where that ends up falling, which we'll find out this week, I think.
Yeah.
And then but supposedly, your 400, if you can buy a PS5 for 400, it's going to perform like a $700, $800 PC probably.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
If you're getting the FPS with it, I wouldn't stress about it too much unless you're really at that, top 10 AM team and up, like pro level.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Rex. I think a lot of people are freaking out that they need like this $2,000 PC, but when the
only question is if you're trying to stream plus play.
Yeah, the difference between 60 to like 120, 140 is like huge, but the difference between like 120 and like 200 is not like a huge.
You're not gonna notice it.
No, really, all things considered, if you're like an AM who like cannot afford like a PC setup, just get the PS5.
Yeah, the extra 400 or 500 is gonna break you.
Exactly. Yeah, so
yeah, I mean the other debate there is the X factor though might be like when it comes, like, at least from my perspective is like PS5, you're gonna have to buy a PS5 controller and probably and if you're using a Scuff or like a Battle Beaver, or like, are they going to have the attachments that are going to still work for the PS5 as the back bumpers? I don't know.
Interesting.
Like you might end up getting suckered into buying another $150, $200 Scuff.
Yeah.
And then that alone, like plus your PS5 plus PSN.
Plus a monitor that runs 120 plus.
Yeah.
frames,
So it's just like at that point you may as well go PC.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd be curious to see if someone could like put together what you would need if you like do not have the equipment, like the 120 plus hertz monitor, all that, like put a bundle together with a PC and see.
Yeah, I mean, either way, you're gonna need a 120 hertz monitor either way.
Yeah,
I mean, Sweaty Poppy, I think maybe it's like Sweaty Poppy. The guy's like been, I think, setting up like everyone's routers for the best stuff, and he'd set up scumps and everything. He had like a stream, and he talked about like budget PCs you could get that would like make things still run really well and things like that. He actually posted, it's on my Twitter too, but he posted like a Word doc basically with the notes on it. So if you want to check that out.
Perfect. That's good though. Yeah. We definitely need people, because I'm sure like a lot of even like COD pros probably have no idea. But like I know Attach put out a video and like he was like, I don't know how to read these settings. Like he was
what does this mean to me?
Yeah. So
again, the controller is really interesting because again, like you'll be able to use whatever controller you want.
Yeah.
It's like in theory, could you use like an Xbox 360 controller?
360 Scuff.
A 360 Scuff.
I'm getting that for sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, at the end of the day, like it's just wild.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
So I mean, those are kind of all the pros. I mean, at the end of the day, the cons, high price. I mean, it's going to be expensive if you're wanting to switch to PC. Like realistically, if you want to stream plus play the game at 120 FPS, you're going to probably have to spend over $1,000. Probably. I mean, maybe if you find the right pieces. If you're trying to stream plus play, like that's going to be expensive.
It's going to be over $1,000 unless
you're
a mastermind at setting these things up. But
yeah. So like those are the costs like there if you're trying to stream plus play on PC. So like that's where you kind of decide like, okay, well if you want to stream, like potentially the PS5 supposedly is going to be able to stream in pretty high quality while still running 120 FPS. Supposedly. I mean, that's just, they always say that. You never know.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting to check out too before maybe you make your decision. That's possible as well. So a lot of different factors there. I mean, cons. What else comes to mind for cons when it comes to like
the big one that comes
to
to my mind is that so in PC you can switch from controller to keyboard. If you just unplug your controller, it just switches you to mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, so the input like fighting should be pretty strong, like the input detection.
Yeah, which I know on Modern Warfare. I've tried it on my PC. If you go into a game with the controller set as your input, you cannot, like, even if you unplug your controller, it will say plug your controller or like leave the game and switch your input. Like it forces you to keep on the same input.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, that means that's resolved then.
Yeah.
But I mean, hopefully that people don't find some weird workarounds for that.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
like,
trust me, they will.
Someone get that. Like, I know there's those converters that people, I'm pretty sure that Envoy probably used on the PS4, converters that makes the keyboard make it seem like a controller input to the system.
I mean, obviously the biggest worry off the rip is cheating. I mean, that's of course the biggest worry. I mean, we saw like this year at the beginning of Warzone, just the flood of cheaters because COD didn't have the anti-PC cheating, stuff in place to fight against the PC cheats. Yeah. So, so that's a big problem.
Yeah, you got to hope that is going to be addressed, because I mean, these other like PC competitive shooters, I mean, they're, games have hackers, but like when you're playing in those competitive games, like it's not so much of an issue for the most part. Of course, you're going to get those games that they exist, but it's not very often, and you can still climb the ranks to the top. And you shouldn't be
hopefully
getting cheaters every other game,
Yeah, I mean, that's just the biggest thing, I mean, I have faith in the community, but there's a lot of scumbags out there. Yeah. So,
and like you kind of hope too, which we might get into later, but like if we can get a bubble where it's all LAN, then the pro scene at least would probably be fine. But then of course the AM scene, I'm assuming this is gonna be like the worst in the AM scene.
Oh, so that was one thing that I was wondering is how do LANs work with cross plat? That's so weird.
Yeah,
because if it's not, at LANs is not bring your own device.
Yeah,
it's like, do you just have like 200 Xboxes and 200 PS4s all laying around?
I mean, they're probably just gonna use PCs and tell them to bring your controller. Like,
I think they.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I think they actually said in the rules. I'm pretty sure they said it's gonna be PC if it's ever
all LANs. Okay, I didn't. I must have missed that then.
But I could be wrong.
Which would make the most sense. I think you can just bring your Xbox controller or whatever controller you use at home. Yeah. And that would make the most sense.
And I guess we'll see if there's going to be a significant difference. Like people from PS5 be like, the PCs are just way different. I can't, but I don't think it'll be the case. But
that would be really interesting, because the first time I plugged my controller in my PC for like Warzone, it definitely isn't as fine tuned. Like you get to adjust your settings pretty heavily on the controller.
Yeah.
With like like the aim assist, because there's like 3 different aim assists on like Modern Warfare and all that. So that might be like a slight issue, but if they give them time to like mess with settings before their match, it should be fine. But it definitely is a different.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have time to acclimate before there's actually LANs anymore anyway. So that should be not too big of a problem at least. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. The cheating scares me the most, and hopefully that's not as bad as it sounds like it could be. But all right, let's move forward. I want to talk a little bit about some of the topics that Hecz and Hastro brought up on the eavesdrop. No free shout outs. Yeah. But Hastro was on the eavesdrop, and they were talking about a lot of. They actually talked some nice in-depth things, like kind of tangible things for us, in their conversations. One of the things they talked about is that Hastro brought up that the league is currently talking about potential plans for next season, and they were throwing around the idea of how a bubble could work. So it's not like it's ruled out at this point, which is really interesting. I mean, what are the odds?
Yeah, because if they do stick with the same format, it'd be weird because you're getting like an event like once every 3 weeks. So it'd be kind of like, it'd be like a long period of being in the bubble.
Yeah, they have to do it differently.
Yeah, they need to do like almost like weekly events or like league play matches, right? So like they might start doing that.
Or they have two waves. Like it's this many teams are here, then there's this many teams here, then there's a break, and then there's like a quarantine period, then like they come back type situation.
Yeah, they would definitely need to change the format from the current one if they're going to do a bubble.
I feel like it's inevitable that the format's going to change somehow.
Yeah.
Because it was fine, but I don't know if it was ideal, and I think there's probably some better ways to do it.
Yeah.
Especially with a weird situation next year with COVID. So.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know, Rex, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I would love to see the bubble happen. I mean, obviously, I think it is definitely possible to do. I mean, I could see it happening. I don't think even the format, I don't even know how big of an issue that would be. I don't know the whole logistics of a bubble, but I mean, I'm guessing they would give them their own apartments. And then there's like maybe like a LAN location like we saw in
Columbus.
When they were doing that. So it'd be like a similar situation. Then some teams they practice at home, probably in their apartments. Maybe they have practice at a LAN center even. Wouldn't that be crazy? And then
I mean, realistically, I would imagine it would happen in Dallas, right? I mean,
you would think
feels
so.
the most likely.
I mean, that's where everyone's going to move to anyways.
And they have the esports LAN center there and like a lot of different ways. I think options for the players there and insane internet.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, player even like, Optic is already talking about trying to make it so that their players can move to Dallas. Like every player can move to Dallas at this point.
Yeah.
Just because it's online. So it's like,
Yeah, the whole quote was, he said, we are working hard to figure out what we can do next year to potentially create the bubble environment or get away with doing a few LAN tournaments with the right safety protocol. So
for sure, I think Champs is going to be on LAN next year.
Yes, which is huge. But how do you feel about what happens if the whole year is online and then Champs is on LAN? Does that feel weird?
I don't know. That would be weird.
That does feel weird.
It just doesn't seem right, almost.
Yeah. Like it feels like you need to have like at least 3 LAN events, with like 2 major LAN events and then Champs, right?
Yeah,
it feels like that's kind of what's necessary.
At least like 2 LAN events and then like good practice time towards Champs, being able to play on. Like I think that's a pretty good number you just threw out there. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you had 1 in June, 1 in July, and then Champs in August, like maybe like 1 LAN in June, 1 LAN in July, 1 LAN, and then Champs in August. Like that's not terrible.
I mean, the LANs would happen sooner than that, right?
Well, I would imagine they're gonna
a month. I mean,
well, no, but that's what I'm saying. If they're trying to have 3 LANs next year,
yeah, if that's their goal, they need to be at the very end. Like, don't have the LANs at the
like,
beginning.
they're not going to move them
go
forward.
online and then have Champs at LAN. Like, you might as well lump all the LANs together.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to hold out hope, but like, I'd imagine we're not going to have any word about how this league's going to be formatted until probably like late November. I would imagine, like until after this game's released, probably.
Yeah.
Man,
I mean,
I feel the bubble. I feel the bubble. I think it's gonna.
Oh,
happen.
the bubble would be so
LAN
sick. You think?
Happening this game. LAN is happening this game.
I agree. I definitely think at some point it's happening, but I'm not sure when. And I think there's a lot of variables still.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was really interesting. I think overall as a conversation piece. The other thing that they really brought up a lot was about the potential public contracts, and this was something that was kind of brought up, and like other esports have been talking about it. Where do you guys stand with this? Do you feel like all pros contracts should be public information?
Who wouldn't want to see that? As a fan, of course I want to see that.
Yes, I mean as a fan, but is it best for the league?
Yeah, I'm at the point where I'm like, yeah, I would love nothing more than to see like the contract, just see like what it's like. But at the same time, maybe it makes it better for the league if that's not public knowledge.
Why?
So that
Why
players,
would it be better?
well, so like players can. I don't know. It just
Privacy.
seems like privacy, then B like players, would be able to
Ego things.
negotiate better, like like in the
Well, it definitely helps the players to have it private.
like in real world, like. If you switch jobs, someone's going to ask you like, what's your salary? Like it helps you to not tell them your salary.
Right, it's going to help you negotiate.
So
yeah, I mean, in all other sports, because they're publicly owned teams and such, like the contracts.
Yeah,
and so it's like, I mean, Hastro said he would prefer to have it be public, but he's not strong feeling either way. And Hecz was like, no way, I don't want it public.
Why would he not want like? I don't know. I think
Hastro said his reasoning was why he would prefer to have it public is because he thinks that some players get a little lazy when they get paid. And he says we saw it a lot this year.
I agree.
And that having the public pressure of like, yo, you're making $200K and you're not even practicing, like would probably be beneficial for the league. This was Hastro's argument. Hecz was just like, nah, man, privacy, it matters. And that was kind of like where Hecz was at with it.
I mean, maybe because, people are probably getting maybe paid absurd amounts on his team, like,
oh, yeah,
way inflated more than other places. Or maybe he's actually not paying super inflated amounts to like new players coming in.
Yeah.
Like, obviously,
that's the
Scump, you
question.
assume Scump's getting paid.
big
lot,
bucks.
and probably
Yeah.
formal a lot.
Mhm.
At
Yeah,
this point,
100%.
and so like
I
people
mean-
will see like $1 million for Scump, and then the next highest is like 200,000. It's like whoa, you know.
Yeah.
And then
I mean-
people might roast Scump or roast these players that are getting paid like absurd amounts higher than everybody else, and be like, "Why are you guys not good? You're paid like way higher than everybody else." And it's just like,
Yeah, like
because
I think
I'm
it
me,
would
you
create
know?
a lot of toxicity, like in the fandom. Like you know, people would be on Twitter like holding those numbers over people's heads if they're not
Mhm.
playing well. But I mean, that's what happens in every other sport. Like Sammy Watkins had the worst contract in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like, yo, this dude doesn't produce at all, and like, this guy sucks. Why is he getting paid 10 mil? You know, I mean, like it happens in every sport. Like, there's the worst contract on every team. You know,
Yeah.
so I mean, it'd be fun.
Mhm.
But again, I'm kind of with Hastro. I don't really feel strongly about it either way.
How
you know?
could I mean, you have to want to see it though, right?
I guess, but it would definitely create a lot of toxicity. So I don't know if I'm kind of on the fence about that.
Why
overall.
do you care? What
I
attachment
like
do you have?
positivity, man.
I mean, I
I like some positivity in the
too,
world.
but, the more information, the better for me.
No, yeah, I agree.
I get
agree.
it for orgs. I get it for players. I'm sure there's other reasonings, but for me as a
Oh,
fan,
yeah.
I definitely want to see that.
For sure. I
Just
mean,
cool.
overall, I would prefer to see it.
Yeah.
I agree. But yeah, I mean, so the other thing they talked about was kind of like in reference to the whole Wuskin drama, which was a really weird situation overall.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, Wuskin and Assault. So Assault basically called out Wuskin and the Royal Ravens for like ditching on practice on scrims and basically bailing on scrims,
Mhm.
and that Wuskin and other guys on the team weren't apparently scrimming as much as they should because they were playing quote unquote Warzone tournaments instead, or they were playing Warzone instead. And then like the timeline roasted Assault for like roasting Wuskin because Wuskin's, the boys.
Mm.
And I mean, I don't know. I mean, do you guys have an opinion like on that as a whole? Like,
Mhm.
I mean, Assault got roasted after he talked bad about Wuskin, which I totally get because it was unnecessary, like shots
Yeah.
fired.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
But,
what was
like-
the deal though? Why did he take those shots?
He I think he was
Because
saying,
Wuskin was like talking about being a free agent.
yeah, he
Mhm.
was talking about being a free agent.
Wuskin
And I
was
think Assault was
tilted.
basically
Got
just
it.
saying like Assault was
Practice
just,
more.
Assault was just saying like, practice more. This wouldn't happen. Your team
You got a
canceled
bad
on our
rep because of your practices.
your team canceled on our
Mm.
practices for Warzone tournaments, and then
and then Wuskin was like, "What?"
yeah, it's like, what are you talking about? That like happened like twice in the whole year,
Yeah.
and then it was just like it's just this whole
And then
storm.
tons of pros were roasting Assault.
Yeah.
For going at Wuskin.
Mhm.
And basically then Hecz chimed in and was kind of like to talk about it a little bit. And like Hecz said he told his team to go play Warzone tournaments and cancel scrims
yeah,
if
I
they
mean,
need to. Because
of course, but
yeah,
yeah,
I
because
mean,
it's
brand
content
building.
It's content which builds your brand, which builds your fan base, which brings in more money. Like Hecz. Always
I mean-
at the end of the day, Hecz is always going to
exactly.
Right.
favor content.
content and brand building.
Yeah.
I mean, let's
The
just say
fans what
Wuskin.
your org wants.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and then that was what Hastro said. He's like, yeah, there's just kind of different ways to go about it with teams. It's like some teams prioritize it more. It's like, I don't think it's a bad thing.
Mhm.
And so I kind of thought that was a really reasonable response.
Yeah.
But I mean, where are you at with like the Wuskin situation, like just himself? Like,
Yeah.
do you feel like London was like sketchy? I don't know. I mean, I saw it a few times on the timeline throughout the year where like people were like, yo, really Warzone?
Yeah.
But like, I don't know.
It just seems weird that. I mean,
How much
you,
does that really affect?
Yeah, you kind of call them out, but they got top 4 at champs. Like they're-
Right.
like,
they finished better than you.
They performed when it mattered.
Yeah.
And then so if they're playing Warzone tournaments and get building their brand, but then also got top 4, like London kind of came out on top this year. Like they kind of came from middling tier to like
Right.
they had a huge low and they came out on
Wuskin
top.
built his brand,
I
and he
know.
was winning Warzone
Which
tournaments.
like to me, like personal side note, like I cannot believe Wuskin is still free agent. Like that is
oh yeah, we're about to
me.
be talking about that.
So
Yeah,
is that
so-
what it was more about? Was Assault kind of going at Wuskin saying like maybe you
I'm
would
mind
get on a
blown.
team
Yeah.
if you would show up for practices and not cancel them for Warzone tournaments?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what he was saying.
I mean, that's a tough call. I mean, I could see from a player's perspective, like Assault, who isn't really involved in that whole thing.
The content
And like
world.
someone cancels a scrim for you, and then they've done it a few times. It's like, I don't want to play with this person if they're not going to practice, you know? So when it comes free agent time, are you going to pick the guy who's skipping scrims to go to Warzone tournaments? Or are you going to pick the guy who's showing up and ditching the Warzone tournament?
Yeah, but like if you're Assault and you're like that, you're throwing shade at like guys like Wuskin, like another competing main AR for a roster spot.
Yeah.
You're like, well, why would you sign that guy? He's skipping
I
out on
know.
scrims to play Warzone. Do you really want that? Like that's kind of dirty.
Yeah.
And like he is throwing shade at Wusk for no reason besides like, you know, Wusk wasn't calling out Assault. You know,
Right.
it was just shots fired for no reason.
Yeah.
On an innocent bystander. So it was just a tough situation. I thought it was worth mentioning because it was definitely a weird thing overall.
Yeah.
We'll definitely we're about to talk about Cold War in a second, but and we're gonna talk about the Kenny stuff in the Rostermania because I think it kind of fits well with the whole conversation. Did you want to talk about the Gunless and then talk about Crim real quick before we get into the Rostermania stuff?
Might as well.
I mean, what happened with the Gunless? So Gunless, all the awards came out, like the fan voted awards for the CDL, and like Gunless got cropped out of the pictures
with the 05
with the Huntsmen about the team, like about the situations and moments that he was a part of.
It makes no sense. Like
it happened twice.
Like, and you can't say it's because he's not a Huntsman because Arcitys was officially let go, but he was still making the Huntsman suite. So it's like you can't say it's because they weren't like technically Huntsmen at the time.
It's really
it just
bad.
makes no sense.
Yeah, it's like what you're going to 4v4, but you're going to cut out Gunless.
I know. Because why?
Why?
Like,
I mean, there was like a
because he was
purposeful
benched?
cutout too. It's like it didn't even like put Pristini in, so it's like accidentally
No,
put
it was
Pristini.
literally-
It was literally
literally-
cut him out. Like,
Yeah,
which is just. I wish they would have spoke on that because that's just like awkward. It's like it's very purposeful that what you did there.
yeah.
you
Gunless
know?
was basically just like, yo, like,
Yeah,
bro,
what? Yeah.
what?
Why
you
did
know, like,
Gunless-
at least mention it?
Here's the question: why does Gunless get all this weird like hate, even from the Call of Duty League? He's getting this hate. They don't like it.
So strange.
Like,
It's
that was a
weird.
purposeful decision to cut him out and put 4 people there.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
that can't be an accident. Like,
No.
it's just like
Unless they had some like holy reasoning for like, oh, we're going 4v4 and Gunless didn't play at Champs and Gunless isn't going to be on the roster anymore. So let's just cut him out. No one's going to care. But like,
But the other
you're
ones
giving,
had
you're giving an
5v5,
award to the
no?
guy who was in the game.
I know.
Yeah, it just makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. So
And it was like twice too. It was for the comeback of the year against Rokkr, and then there was something else too. And like he like retweeted it, and like they did it again. Like,
Yeah.
like, it was something else. I can't remember what it was for, but
yeah, it was just crazy.
like just disrespect, man.
I know.
What
don't do that.
happened,
It was
dude? What is-
tough. It was tough.
That's so. I would like to meet Gunless someday. I'm not gonna lie. Like, what is
like, yo, what is happening? Yeah.
What like why is people not like you very much, dude? Like
Yeah.
I get like toxic
It's
in
tough.
game, but like I seems like I hear him talk and so I'm like, not that bad. Like
No, I know. He's just a little quiet, man. You know, that's all it is. But he's a cool guy.
So weird.
The other thing, the last thing I wanted to talk about in the news segment was kind of like the Crim 6 shotgun tweet, the shotgun take that like blew up out of nowhere. And he was just like, yo, I hate shotguns. They have no place in any FPS.
Mm.
And that was basically his whole argument. Like, shotguns are not competitive. They're not fun. They're not interesting. You know, where do you guys stand on the shotgun argument? Rex, I want to hear what you have to say.
I mean, I don't know if it's like that true. I mean, I understand where he's coming from, especially when it comes to like Warzone and like COD. But I mean, there's games like Overwatch where like there's a character called Reaper, it's like double shotguns, and like it was the meta at one point, and like people say he's like cheesy, but like he's not so overpowered that you can't beat it, you know? And people like Valorant's another game where it's not super overpowered. I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah,
if
was
it's a
Crim
real...
specifically talking about like the current meta in Warzone? Was that what he was
Yeah,
talking
of
about?
course that's what he was talking about.
He said his actual tweet was, I cannot think of one game, one shotgun that was skillful but most importantly fun to use.
Right. Was he tilted because, I mean, it must have been because of Warzone why he was tilted.
Probably
just
Warzone.
just
Yeah.
shotgun meta.
Yeah, so that must have been what it was. But like, just hilarious. And it just blew up. Like, mainstream media gaming companies were like
I
covering
know.
this like take
Yeah.
from
so
Crim out of
weird.
nowhere. It was just so weird how like it like got traction.
Yeah. This His reply is like the greatest. He's a pro COD player. That's like being the special ed student of esports.
Oh my word.
That's how we're
I
viewed
know,
in
I
the
saw that. I saw that.
Cool.
But here's the thing. I
Thanks.
know where he's coming from because if you're picking up a shotgun, it's because you just want to bum rush into things and shoot stuff.
Oh
and
yeah,
have
I
it
mean,
die
generally,
quickly.
you're not very good at a game if you love using
You're
shotguns.
not looking to really
Usually.
think about your gameplay too much. But granted, obviously, you can play a shotgun at a high level or a low level, which you can see in
'Cause you think-
Valorant.
Yeah.
You think about
Overwatch.
the starting meta of whatever gun it was in Modern Warfare. Remember that gun that was like
Oh yeah,
a sniper?
the 725.
725.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
That was absurd.
was that thing like? Were you skillful because you got killed with that
No.
gun? No.
Modern Warfare's had a problem with OP shotguns.
So yeah, I
It's just
get
how
where he's coming
COD
from, but
is. Yeah.
yeah, but like I think
Yeah.
his mistake was not saying not one game, not one shotgun, and of course people from all sorts of different video games in esports came at him. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just crazy.
maybe he should have just stuck with saying in Call of Duty specifically, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it. Honestly, I mean, shotguns, I don't really care. I never use
use them.
shotguns. So
Shotguns are
it's-
fun sometimes. If you're looking to just go brain dead
Shady
and run into
Nero
things,
uses
if you're gonna
shotguns.
go brain dead, run into things. No matter what game, grab the shotgun. Just all right, just go run and bum rush. Like,
Oh
no
my
thinking
word! I mean,
involved.
Gears of War lives off shotguns.
they do the masher.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It's amazing.
But let's get into some roster mania action. We got some massive news, baby, and let's hear it straight from the source. Let's do the drop, baby.
Big Brucey, what up, baby? I got your own now, baby.
Big Brucey. What up, baby? Obviously, boys and girls, the confirmed news today.
Today,
The Chicago Huntsmen
Yeah.
have signed Dashy.
Bruce.
And they reunite Scump and Dashy. Envoy, Dashy are now together. Formal, Dashy. It's a big old party.
Man,
Lots of talent on that team. What are your first reactions to the official news, Rex?
Honestly, that team looks pretty scary, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's a team definitely full of talent. The vibes honestly could even hit with this team. I can definitely see that happening. But we'll see. We'll
I
see.
know. It's just
You never know. These literally, I mean, Scump, Dashy, Formal, they're the three guys where it's like you don't know talented, but the vibes are like,
Yeah.
the environment of the team isn't always exactly the best. So we'll see what happens.
I'm
Because
nervous,
these are
man.
at least three of these players are three players that very much are like, they have more fun almost than anything. And then I don't know how to describe this right, but like, they don't care so much about like,
They're in it. They're just in it for the fun.
yeah, it's kind of just in it for the fun. They've all like, yeah, exactly. They're just in it for fun and just show off their talented skill and just like ego things. Like, yeah. And Envoy's
Right.
kind of along for the ride, but Envoy's voice is great too. And he has that personality that can kind of fit in with anything, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, Sam, how do you feel about Formal and Dashy?
Yeah, I'm nervous. So when I heard rumors that Dashy was coming, I was honestly was hoping Dashy wasn't going to be that fourth.
Yeah. I saw a lot of Huntsman fans kind of just hoping it wasn't going to be Dashy, like
I
hoping
know.
for a Priesta or something.
It's weird, obviously with the whole, and like this might be where we talk about the Kenny versus
Yes.
Dashy talk.
Yes.
I feel like, and so for those who don't know, Kenny recently, what it was a stream, wasn't
him
it?
out,
Called him out,
baby.
yeah. Drama headlines, called him out.
Yes, sir.
Basically, summing up, Kenny, respects Dashy as like a person, but as a player,
Iffy.
apparently he just, iffy, late.
As a teammate, really is what it is.
Teammate,
As
yeah.
a teammate, not a
Teammate.
player.
Apparently, their whole team gave Dashy the star role. They asked him what did he want to run.
Yeah, I mean, going
Right.
back to the source, at the originally, when it comes to Rostermania,
Mhm.
Tej or Slasher and Kenny wanted to play together.
Mhm.
Slasher and Kenny wanted to play with Tej. Tej was like, well, I want to play with Dashy.
Yeah.
And that's how the roster formed. But before that, during that time, Dashy was still trying to get on the Huntsmen and wasn't committing to playing with Optic. This was going into Rostermania this year, like going into to Modern Warfare's Rostermania. And so, Dashy was holding out hope that he was going to be able to get on that roster. Probably instead of like Gunless, I would imagine it was going to be Envoy, Arcitys, Dashy, or something, or like I don't know, it'd be some weird combo. Anyway, long story short, they weren't. That was like already like a big flag. And then Tej and Dashy kind of were always late, things. And Kenny was like, I mean, it wasn't the worst thing ever, but like, we still want to play. We still want to play with Tej. It wasn't the worst thing ever, but like they were pretty much usually late. And then, like you said, they offered him kind of like the star role. They said, you can play whatever role you want to play. This was when they made that role change mid-season, when Dashy started running the main AR and Slasher switched to a flex. And we're like, all right, Dashy, we're going to give you what you want. Here's the main AR. Let's go hard, baby. Let's try to make this happen. And Kenny was like, we were still trash. We were terrible. And so we switched back. And then that just kind of pissed Dashy off, apparently. That they didn't give it. Apparently Dashy must have thought he didn't have enough time. Kenny said when they were playing as a main AR, Dashy wasn't communicating well. He felt like his commitment was still a little questionable. And I mean, Kenny did admit that like their whole team had questionable commitment and communication at times. Because we all know that roster got a little toxic there mid-season. I mean, obviously.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. But they also had JCap on that team too.
Yes. And that was like right after
the time. What were you going to do with that?
Right. And they were experimenting with JCap and Chino at the time. And so like that was kind of like the whole situation. And so Kenny and Dashy did not clash. Or they did clash. They did not mesh well.
Yeah.
So kind of taking that information based off what we know about Dashy, based off what Crim has said about Dashy.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Was also Crim.
Biggest question is like, will Formal mesh with Dashy? Because I mean, we know Scump will.
Yeah. I
mean, Envoy's the easiest, chillest guy. It'll work.
Yeah.
Will Formal mesh with Dashy?
Yeah. This is how I see what needs to happen. I honestly think Envoy needs to take a huge leadership position because he's gonna be the one that's gonna be making shot calls, right? Because I honestly see
him in Formal, right?
Yeah, I honestly see Envoy as the most talented, if not like.
Rex, close your ears.
I mean, I think he has the best mindset.
Like Envoy. I know people like will hype up Formal, Scump, and Dashy, but like Envoy was
most well-rounded for sure.
So good this year, and so if Envoy can keep them in check, and if Formal, Dashy, and Scump are all having fun, then they're going to be nasty. However, if they don't like the game and they're not meshing, this team's going to collapse.
And let's hope they have a 2AR meta.
Yeah, because is Dashy okay not taking main AR?
Because Formal's not.
Formal's for sure taking main AR.
And he's Formal.
Yeah.
So he's playing.
Formal's getting the first choice here.
Yeah, you're playing under Hecz.
Yeah, so unless there's like a Mad X where it's like a hybrid, right? I don't know. So like there's just a lot of what ifs. However, if if the stars align, this team is going to be nasty.
And if they're motivated.
Yes.
Again, are we going to see a situation like what we've seen basically the last 2 years where the Huntsmen and then Optic last year were really good at the beginning of the year.
And then they
lulled for like 4 months. And then near the end of the year, they start grinding again. And then they play well at champs. There's a theme right now with Scump-led teams right now.
Yeah.
And Dashy kind of seems to be that type of player as well.
But Formal, I believe in you, man. I believe in you.
But again, I mean, at the end of the day, in 4v4, talent can win. And we've seen that in past CODs with Optic, for example. They didn't play the most fundamental COD, but they were incredibly talented. And it worked out. So I think this team is definitely going to be good. Over under, or way too early predictions. Over under 2.5 wins next year. Let's just say we had the same format as this year. Over under 2.5 home series wins. Rex,
what's 2.5? Wait,
basically like a line.
2. Oh. Yeah, like it's like a betting line.
Like
over under 2.5.
I would say two wins.
Okay, so under.
Yeah.
Sam?
I would say I'm gonna say over.
Ooh, you're
with
confident.
It being like 2 at the very beginning.
And then 1 at the end, or near the end.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one too.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely possible.
Yeah.
It's just because I think Envoy we know is kind of the more talkative one that was on that team before, and hopefully he can maintain that. I just remember when Crim, but he was also good. So like he kind of demanded that respect as well. Crim, on the other hand, when he was on that Optic team, he was talking about how like he was on the podcast talking about how like, you know, Dashy, they would all just like make fun of him when he was trying to like get the team to be like serious about like strategy and like how they're going to do things. And they would just make fun of him and not really listen to him. And he said it's like, it was just so toxic, you know? But
yeah, so that probably wouldn't happen this time. And again, Tej isn't there anymore. And this is finally, Rex, your dream came through true. Tej and Dashy are officially split up. This is something you've been, yeah. So, I mean, I think that's an upgrade for both players in your mind, right?
I would say, I mean, yeah, probably. I think they were good friends, but I don't know if they were good for each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're more of a long distance relationship type friends.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I feel that for sure. I mean, we're going to talk a lot more about the Huntsmen and more predictions coming forward, but I think we're all pretty excited about the roster as a whole. I mean, it's definitely star-studded. Mm-hmm. It's going to create for some good content. They're going to be a fun team to like watch scrims of, and they're going to be joking around all day long. Mm-hmm. So like, I'm sure the content's going to be hilarious for those guys. Yeah. But can they mesh as a squad? Can they figure out the meta? Can they improve throughout the year?
Yeah.
Can they take it serious enough too, without like you know what I mean?
Messing around too much. Yeah. There's a balance.
Yeah.
It has to be fun, so you want to get on to scrim, but at the same time, you've got to get better.
I know that's
why Gunless got kicked off. Like,
I know that's why I'm gonna be miss Arcitys so much. Like he was so good at like
both,
like knowing when to get serious, but then knowing when to laugh too. So
I agree. He was good for the team.
Yeah,
which it'll be interesting to say the least. So let's move forward to other Rostermania news. I mean, obviously the FaZe stuff. It's still feeling like Arcitys is headed there.
Yes.
And that's going to be a wild team.
Yeah. That's an insane team, too. Talk about star-studded
as well. Oh, yeah. Star-studded, nasty. It's going to be a fun one. I mean, some of the weird stuff is like Gunless. Like the news that came out this week about Gunless, because Octane was kind of like,
he was
again, looking pissed on the timeline.
Yeah.
But he's kind of been subtweeting like weird things the past 2 weeks anyway.
Yeah.
So people were maybe thinking, yo, did Gunless dip out on this team for Optic? Is that what happened?
Yeah.
I mean, right now, CDL Intel thinks Gunless is still on Seattle. But I don't know. Because he says he hasn't really heard much else from it, that he thinks Octane might have just been baiting. But what do you guys think?
Yeah. I mean, gosh, I don't know. If it would be interesting, because I think Octane's most recent tweet was,
"It's been a good day.
It's been a good day today." So maybe it all worked out in the
throwing
end.
The ultimate baits, man.
I know. Because like part of like the whole Rostermania is just knowing when the tweet is serious or not, and you know, who knows what's real and what's not real, but.
Yeah, I mean, that Seattle roster right now with Gunless is currently rumored to be Octane, Gunless, Looney, and Pristini.
Which
it's a weird roster.
Octane is kind of the Octane and Pristini really are kind of the odd men out in that a little bit. I feel like Pristini fits in more to it, but Octane seems like Looney and Gunless are two very, very serious toxic
and vocal players.
Vocal players.
They're just vocal.
Say toxic.
Yeah, very vocal.
They're vocal players.
Yeah.
You know, Pristini, Pristini was probably, whatever. I don't know. We'll see. Pristini will probably be okay. He's teamed with Gunless. Gunless likes him. And Arcitys and Pristini both, it might just be like their DNA. Like they can go both directions. It can be chill and have fun, or they can also be super serious and grind too.
Yeah. I mean, again,
Octane.
In a 4v4 situation, this roster is going to be solid. I mean, it's built very similarly to the Rise roster. You know, Octane is Slasher, Pristini is Tej.
But Octane is not Slasher.
Octane's really freaking good, though.
Octane's really good, but mentality-wise...
He's not the general like Slasher is, yeah.
I mean, Octane is much more kind of a goofball. Like, he doesn't take things so seriously.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Which is why he teamed well with Slasher last year on 100T.
Right.
Like, it worked because of that.
I just don't. This one is a weird roster to me. This could honestly end up being another team that falls flat on its face again.
I mean, talent-wise in a 4v4, I mean, Gunless and Octane's plenty of talent.
Yeah.
I
Just
mean,
them
Seattle
two.
Surge this year, all of them had plenty of talent.
Not gunless levels. You know, I mean, not gunless levels. I mean, App, he's not gunless.
Okay. I don't know if Gunless is that much better than them, though.
Oh, my word. Okay, all right. Now we're underestimating Gunless
I
here.
know, Gunless is pretty nasty.
Gunless was literally like, how many MVPs did he win in World War II? So many. He was literally nuts. And
Right.
in IEW, he was nuts. Oh, yeah, what was the similarity there? 4v4 CODs.
Mhm.
I think Gunless in 4v4 CODs on a Treyarch game, it slows down just enough where you can set up for your gunfights. You're going to know where they are. They're smart players. They're going to learn this game. They don't get off this game.
Mhm.
Guys like Looney and Gunless, especially when they're going to be on a team with Octane and Pristini, like that's going to be. I think it's going to be a really interesting team if that ends up being what it is.
I think,
And
I don't know if they'll be good.
they're going to
though.
be well prepared.
I mean, they're talented players. I don't know if the vibes are going to fit. I mean, Seattle Surge, sure. Gunless is not, more talented than all of them, but Seattle Surge also was losing to teams like Paris. And they had talented players that we would say are way more talented than Paris players.
But they also had guys who didn't want to play the game. Gunless will play any game, and I'm sure he's going to play a lot of this game.
Yeah.
Right. Gunless will get
if
some
he was
wins,
probably in World War II.
He was
Gunless
probably
and
in this
Looney
game.
are going to be running
Yeah.
that team. I'm scared for Octane. I think Octane is going to be in a toxic environment. Like he would consider like an environment that I don't know if he'll be able to do well in or not, but we'll see. And then Pristini as well, who we'll see.
I don't know. I'm pretty confident in the roster. I mean, again, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to like what Looney is at this point. I mean, obviously this year it was tough, but at the same time, 5v5 Modern Warfare for a guy like Looney, it was kind of set up for failure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think in a 4v4 COD, like I think we're underestimating how much it slows it down and how right it's going to feel for so many of the veterans.
Mhm.
Like I fully
Maybe.
expect the veterans to be dominant at the beginning of the year in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But at the same time, maybe he's just going to make the all-star studded straightest shooters in the game even more dominant. And we saw how good like Dashy was in World War II. Of course he was.
Mhm.
He was getting fed by Sensor.
Mhm.
But I mean, like even back in World War II, I mean, it's not like Octane was some bad player on LG,
Right.
before he went to Optic.
No, Octane's never been bad.
Yeah, because I mean, like LG won. They won in World War II. They won the Birmingham event. I'm gonna pull it up. They won a few events back
I
then.
mean, Octane's
like, they were
always
really good early
been
on.
great. Like I've never saw Octane be like, oh, he's bad. Like he's always been like a top tier player.
Right. And like, in World War II, he was teaming with Slacked, JCap, and John, which, John was really good. Slacked and JCap, you could argue, depending on what you thought about them in World War II. And like, they were winning events and they were really freaking good. Like, they got second at New Orleans. They got third at Atlanta. They got top 4 at Pro League or in the stage 1. Then they won Birmingham, top 3 stage 1 playoffs. Like, they were really good
Right.
in the middle of that year. Then they finished top 2. They finished 1-2 at stage 2 playoffs. So it's in stage 2 season. Like, they were a really good team. With Octane back then on Optic as well. Even he made that team better. I don't know. I just think this team is going to be a solid team. Like, I don't know how it fails. Like, unless it's just that toxic. But I don't think that's a big worry.
I think they have to be good or they're going to start crumbling. Like if they're not in that top 3 spot, that team is going to have its internal issues. I think. And Pristini,
Let me say, where you at? Are you still
probably cut
where you
off.
at with it? More on my side, more on Rex's side? Where you leaning?
I would really love to have seen John on this team.
Yeah.
Not sure who I would
In
have
place
to
of Looney or
replace.
in place of Pristini?
See, that's the thing is, I don't know.
Like, can you for a fact say he's better than Pristini at this point? No
I
way.
can't. No, I can't. I guess it's just more like me wanting to see John again.
Yeah.
In the scene, but no, I do firmly believe this team could be really good. Again, I think even in the podcast, Gunless did say that Looney was one of his favorite teammates. I think just because
of how he thought about the game.
Yeah, because like they would scream at each other, but they both were like on the same page. Like,
and he was like, we would argue, and then we'd
then
end the
we're
argument,
fine.
and we'd be good.
Yeah, and so like, if you bring those two, and then Pristini, who is pretty much will do whatever, like he'll do whatever it takes to win.
Right.
And Looney's a fun guy. Like Looney's gonna have a good time.
Yeah. And then Octane's just going to be nasty at, the main AR.
But it's not good
really
enough to
could
just be nasty. It's
In
not good
4v4
enough.
though, your effect is even more important on the map.
But again, like
The better players are multiplied more in 4v4.
Looney and Gunless were like nasty.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
I know this year was kind of weird, but like Looney was really good at World War II. Like
Yeah,
Right.
Really
it'll be
good.
interesting to see when if this roster ends up getting officially announced, like how the public's going to view it. Because like 3 of the guys kind of have like I don't want to say wash, but like they're kind of on the decline. Like public opinion about them when it
Public
comes
view,
to Pristini,
yeah.
Looney, and Gunless.
Mhm.
But like I think heading back to 4v4, all 4 of those guys are going to be really good.
Which like you can imagine too, like all like 3 of those guys have been slept on. Like Looney got benched, Gunless got dropped. Like
Pristini was dropped, then added, then
Pristini was dropped,
roasted.
then like got roasted by the Huntsmen
and
fans.
then rebounded himself.
So it's like you might see like a dangerous like fire in these guys that are just like want to like literally destroy everything.
That's
Yeah,
possible
so-
for sure.
So it's interesting. I think it's a really fun roster for sure.
Yeah.
The other thing, Minnesota was about to announce their roster on Monday, but then they're like, maybe not. And now it might be happening when this podcast goes live on Tuesday.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. But I mean, realistically, it seems like from all that we know what this roster is going to be.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be a really fun like FaZe reunion of Priest and Attach, Major Maniac, and Accuracy.
Accuracies are the one. Yeah.
Really, really interesting roster.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of guys that kind of feel like Attach, Major Maniac, and Accuracy kind of feel like underrated type players right now.
Yeah.
And Priest is coming off, a worse season than Black Ops 4.
Yeah.
People started
So-
looking down on Pristini a little more. Like he lost
You mean
his
on
touch
Priesta?
a little. Or that's what I mean. They were looking down
Yeah.
on Priesta. Like Priesta kind of lost his touch a little bit.
Yeah, and then at the end of the year, he really started picking it up again for FaZe. And I think that was really important.
Mhm.
But this is like the ultimate vibes roster.
Yeah.
Like all these guys are so chill.
Yeah.
So you have Accuracy as main, then Major as
I mean,
flex.
that's the weird thing. Yeah. I mean, again, they're probably hoping for a 2 AR meta as well. So you have Priest and Attach running main subs, and then Major Maniac flexing,
Mhm.
and Accuracy is the main AR. So it's a little bit of an interesting roster. But like talk about like vibes, fun times, branding. Like that's really great for the Rokkr to get a big name roster like that. I like it a lot. Rex, what do you think?
Honestly, it's so I can't decide what I think of it. I think the vibes will be pretty good. I see Major Maniac, Accuracy speaking well towards their team. I think it has potential to be decent, at least decent.
Yeah,
I feel like Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's hard to imagine how this team could be bottom 6. Like it has to be top 6, right?
Right.
Like this is such a solid roster, a solid roster.
I feel like the vibes with Accuracy that might be kind of weird. I don't know. Like do you
I
see him
get
as like
that.
a positive guy?
I think he's a fun dude.
I get
For
what
some
you're
reason
saying,
I-
though, Sam. I get what you're saying.
For some reason like I like feel like there's like some toxic traits about him. I don't
Really?
know.
I mean,
No.
maybe in game he can get into it a little bit, but
Yeah.
like I think out of game he's really chill.
Yeah. Maybe
And like
so.
he teamed with Attach all year this year.
Mm-hmm.
He teamed with him at the end of last year on EG. So like they've had that going for him for a while now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe Temp brings out the worst in him.
I mean, actually, no.
I
I
don't
know.
know.
That'd be
I know
very
you're-
possible.
Actually's always been that more kind of like if someone's putting the foot down sort of thing. It's kind of him sort of
Yeah.
like spearheading it. But I think he does it in a way that people are not so like. I think outside of game, like he knows how to like separate it pretty well. And I think people might know that, so they're okay with it. I mean, Attach followed him there, so. and
yeah, I mean, Attach is
good
kind of the
vibes, good
glue of
vibes,
that
man.
roster, though. Like obviously, Attach must have wanted to leave, like seeing it as an opportunity to play with. I'd imagine seeing it as an opportunity to play with Priesta again, probably
Yeah.
is what it is. And then Priesta brought Major Maniac with him from FaZe. I mean, it feels like Attach is kind of the glue of that roster, right?
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Definitely.
I mean,
Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot. I like it a
I think
lot.
it has potential. I think we're going to see if we, people were right to kind of sleep on the Major Maniac, Attach, pretty much all these players, honestly.
Yeah.
To see if maybe those claims were true or not. This is kind of the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of my favorite rosters. Like when it comes to just like how I think their team could like play season long. It feels like a very consistent roster, like guys who you know what to
Yeah.
expect from.
My gut
You know?
reaction to it is middle of the pack, top middle of the pack team.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll ever see them really win an event, except for maybe like one event, like kind of just out of nowhere.
So you're saying it could be like a very New York this year situation?
Honestly, yeah, a little bit. But we'll see. We'll see. I could see him actually doing better than that too. It's hard to say.
I agree. We need to see how the rest of the Rokkr rosters shake out. But I mean, yeah, along with the attached conversation is the New York conversation, which is the thing we want to kind of stick on here for a little bit. Is Fero seems to be kind of the key right now to everything, and it seems like there's negotiations going on right now between New York and Florida about how to acquire Fero. And it seems like Fero wants to go to the New York, but he's not sure if it's actually going to happen yet, and that's kind of where the CDL intel is at with it too. It seems like no matter what, Clayster's going to be there though, and Fero is still an X factor and probably the biggest X factor left in Rostermania. So, which side of the coin would you rather see? Would you rather see Fero on New York or Florida? And what would be let's just stick with that, and then we can talk about potential options after that. Rex, what do you think? What do you want to see?
I mean, my gut, I did not want Clayster going to New York and being with like Zuma and Attach again. A lot of people were begging for that. I never really wanted to see that again. It just was a team. They're too friendly with each other, that sort of situation. But now it seems like we almost have a mimic of like the two leaders, Clayster, Zuma, if they can be on the same page and kind of like be serious and be able to lead that team that I think Zuma can do. If Zuma is, I hate to say this, if Zuma's not with Attach, I think Zuma can be that more leadership type of person. But with Attach, they're just too good of friends for it to work, if that makes sense.
Interesting.
So with like Clayster, Fero, Mac, and Zuma, Fero and Mac are kind of going to be those young guns that Clayster and Zuma are going to be like, okay, this is how we're going to like organize our team to be like,
it's
good,
definitely a fun roster. And it has upside because of how good can Fero and Mac be like this in a 4v4.
Yeah. And it's interesting.
Which, I mean, Fero was great in World War II.
Fero's great in all the CODs. Like, he's good in every single COD, and like he kind of gets looked over sometimes, I feel like. And then Mac, again, rookie last year, who kind of saved subliners a little bit. Let's see if he can keep it up. Maybe he'll get better. I don't know.
Yeah. And like, it is weird because, I mean, this year Fero and Mac were flexing. So, like, you have Mac run your other main SMG with Zuma. Does Fero do it? And then you have Mac flexing. So, I guess that could be a kind of a debate.
Yeah.
But, like, I mean, which side would you rather have it be on? Would you rather have Fero be on the subliners or Mutineers?
I feel like it seems like Mutineers are kind of crumbling.
It's a weird situation.
So, I almost would rather have him on New York because I know Clayster, if Clayster's going to New York, I know Clayster could rally that team really well. So, it might be kind of fun, honestly. Like, just even talking about it, like how you're talking about it, Rex, with like Mac and Fero being those stars, you know, that would be a pretty nasty roster. Like, Clayster and then Zuma both being in leadership, that could be really good.
Here's the thing: Zuma is a pretty good player, you know.
He is,
and he's fiery.
It's not like Crim 6. Like Crim 6 is good mentally, strategy, whatever, but Zuma's just gun skill. He's arguably kind of the better one, you know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nasty where it's like you get two veterans. Zuma's also kind of still in that young gun, is able to kind of still play with them pretty well. And then Clayster has already even admitted that's like, these are the young guns. Like, I know I'm not going to beat them at their own game, you know? But Zuma can still beat them at their own game. So it makes for an interesting dynamic that it could be really good, or it could also turn into something that, again, it doesn't. I could see it not working out so well either. I don't know.
It's one of the more interesting. It might be the most interesting roster. It's really, really interesting.
Mac, I'm curious.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And like S&D be a little bit interesting with that team, how that would play out with like S&D's a weird topic for them. I mean, when it comes to Florida, then if they end up losing Fero, which at this point isn't a guarantee yet, but right now, CDL Intel really doesn't have any good like vibe for what they're doing. I mean, it sounds like Skies and Awakening are a lock to be there. And then he thinks it might be Havoc re-signing. And then either Fero or somebody else. And he has no clue that somebody else would be.
Yeah.
I thought that maybe it could be, in my prediction video, I thought maybe it's one of like Awakening's teammates from the AM scene last year. You know, something like that, where you bring in a guy from like Hybrid Black last year and bring him in.
Interesting.
Or you try your chances with like a Scraps or something like that, or Temp. finds his way onto that roster.
Hmm.
And then that's kind of like, I could see that potentially happening,
Yeah.
you know? So it feels like it might be like a weird like misfit fourth for a while, and they might be sifting through guys early on in the year.
Yeah, that's
Interesting.
interesting too. I was thinking the same thing. Like maybe, they pick up an AM because they seem to be like the team that's willing to do that. So maybe they'll do that. But now with the 4v4, like you don't know for sure. So it's probably
There's so many good pros out there. Yeah. So it's just,
maybe it is temp.
it feels like Havoc's going to resign. I mean, it just feels like too obvious at that point. Like you bring Havoc back as a guy you've played with, you understand how he plays.
Yeah, because
I mean,
he wasn't bad.
No, yeah, definitely not. He's a very competent player.
Right.
And then you just need to find another fiery fourth though, or to fill Fero's spot,
Yeah.
which is easier said than done.
Yeah.
But there is some good talent out there that could potentially do it. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited. I'll be very, very interested to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
I mean, like some of the pros right now that we think might not get a spot. I mean, the list is pretty insane. Because I mean, really, the only spots right now that are still in question is LA Optics fourth, which at this point is either Gunless or maybe Draza. That's the Gunless is kind of the wild card there. And then London Royal Ravens fourth seems to be right now. It's Shawnee, Alex, and Dylan. The fourth is kind of up for grabs right now. Maybe Scraps, maybe somebody else. And then Paris' kind of whole team. CDL Intel thinks Hydra is locked in there, which is very fun.
Yeah.
But the rest of the roster is still up for grabs. He thinks maybe Dens, Zed, Pred potentially, which is very fun as well.
What
But
about
so anyway,
Zero? I mean, Zero, I think could make a comeback, right?
yeah, and Zero thing is very likely for London as the fourth as well. Zero or Scraps maybe for that fourth spot. But like right now, guys who potentially could lose their spots: Wuskin, Temp, Scraps, GodRx, Asim, Mox, maybe Dens, maybe Luca. Seems like Dens might get a spot. Luca might not. Kismet. John has yet apparently to find a roster.
Yeah.
Saints, Decimate, Blast, Aqua, Proto, Pander, Enable, Slacked, Hollow, Classic, Chino.
It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
So many big names in that
That
list.
is nuts. And all those guys could find their way to the AM scene at this point right now. Maybe one or two of them get picked up. But like the majority of those guys are going to find themselves in the AM scene.
You even throw Hecz in there, right?
Yeah, Hecz. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it's just crazy. And there's definitely more like some of the sub guys for Toronto. I didn't throw like Brack and those guys, of course.
Yeah.
And like some of the subs for Paris and LAG. So yeah, it's just nuts, man.
And the challenger scene is going to be so competitive too.
Oh, my word.
Like, it's
I know.
going to
I
be
think
crazy.
We were going to talk about it today, but then all this news came out with Rostermania. So I think maybe we'll push it back to next. We'll bump it to next week for amateur stuff and talk about how we want to format that a little bit more and all. But it's going to be nuts. And so we expect a lot more announcements this week because Rostermania teams can officially negotiate with players now and officially sign and announce players.
Yep.
So that will continue to happen this week. And I would imagine like we're going to get the announcements from the teams that are kind of already set, like FaZe. I mean, Empire kind of already, I don't know if they're even going to announce their team because they've already, basically they're all there. We imagine the Rokkr. We didn't even mention LAG, but their roster is set to be Vivid, Apathy, Silly, and Assault, which is kind of an underwhelming.
Strange,
Silly is
roster.
obsessed with Assault, man.
Yep, Silly and Assault, man. The EG combo.
Yeah.
Well, Silly, Assault, Apathy.
Apathy, really? Yeah.
It's three of the EG guys, you know?
Yeah,
Plus
three of the
Vivid.
EG guys, but I mean,
You're
like
replacing
Silly
Hecz
and
for Vivid.
Assault where
Vivid.
like follow each other like everywhere.
Yeah. So it's a weird roster. I mean, definitely doesn't get me excited, but they could be consistent. I mean, they'll be better than what LAG was this year.
I feel bad for I don't feel bad for anybody. This team, maybe they'll be good. But Apathy, I feel like he's not getting the credit he deserves. I think Apathy is a phenomenal sub player that is like ending up on these kind of like underwhelming
Tough
teams.
situations.
Tough
Yeah.
situations. So, I mean, I hope they pull through. I could see them being able to. Assault, we know, is good. Apathy's good. We saw glimpses of Vivid being all right, and Silly has always kind of been in that solid middle of the pack position.
Yeah. I mean, they're probably going to be a bottom half team. Probably. Maybe they could have a little bit of a flash early on. It's possible. But I'm not expecting a lot early on from that team. And then Toronto seems to be Methods, Cammy, Bance, Kleenex. And we probably will be getting an announcement about them pretty soon as well because that roster seems to be pretty set in stone. The other teams, it might take a week or two to get like official announcements. And there's still up in the air with those guys.
Oh,
So
the Rokkr one is coming tomorrow. You know.
yeah,
it.
probably. We'll see what happens. Definitely soon, to say the least. So, okay, we need to talk at least a little bit about Cold War because what an announcement. We saw a ton of gameplay.
Yeah.
A ton of gameplay.
Streams, videos.
like multiple hours worth of streams and a ton of YouTube videos. Control is back.
Yeah.
Yay! So I think the first conversation we need to have is based off what you saw. I mean, the maps are the question, I guess, but
maps are huge.
what do you think? CTF, Control, is there a chance for anything else as a third game mode? Rex?
I mean, there was that VIP talk someone had.
Yeah,
which
trash.
again, I think trash. I mean, I thought it was very interesting.
Trash.
I would kind of like to see it in
Trash.
I think it'd be kind of interesting to see it, but I don't think it'll happen just because they're not going to want to switch it up like that, and they know better than I do. But I would like to see it at least in like a fun thing to see it done competitively.
I'd like to see it
I think the
in the
strategy of it, I think, is kind of interesting.
It would be cool to see it play out with like at least like let the pros do like 2 hours worth of like play and just see how it goes. If it's T-Rash, then throw it in the dumpster. But if there's actual legit strategy to it, like hide the dude and like I don't know. Like,
that was the best they could come up with.
I mean, look, I imagine.
I don't want to hate because I'm hyped.
Yeah,
but
you're kind of a hater right now, bro.
You're a hater.
Trash. Wow.
I imagine.
Okay, Control or CTF?
Control. Absolutely Control.
You want or you think?
I want. However, if the maps do not, fit Control, because think about it, Control needs to be, modified pretty heavily with 4v4.
Yeah.
Because think about like
how you broke Control hills.
Think about Arsenal, how fast you could take one hill. If you got a clean break, you pretty much took over whatever the middle one was right away.
I think, yeah.
Think about 4v4. If you break it 4v4, you could probably like get the whole hill and then half of the other one. But like, obviously they'd adjust like the control time
and the respawns and
so but like
there's tweaking.
Yeah, so like it needs to be tweaked and the maps have to fit it perfectly.
Yeah,
I would love to see Control, but if it doesn't fit it, then that sucks.
Yeah, Rex.
Yes, I mean, pretty much same boat. It's like it depends on the maps. Like so far, the maps seem kind of enormous, and
they do seem just slightly enormous.
So like,
the only
Control
one,
where it's like sprint to get there, and then they die. It's like, I gotta sprint. It's like, dude, this is gonna take forever.
By that time, they're gonna cap the whole thing.
Right. The what was that map called? They were playing on like some like. It was a like Russian map that was the Control map, and
I don't know
Moscow,
maybe
I can't remember. But anyway, they were playing some like Russian Control map, and like I mean, it was definitely big. It looked like it played pretty well though.
Yeah, it did.
But again, my biggest worry with Control in 4v4, especially with how the score streaks right now are, which we need to talk about the score streaks, is just like. I don't know. In 5v5, you're playing Control. You're flooding, and how you break these. I mean, when teams got set up on those controls, it was hard to break. Really hard to break, and with no specialists, potentially with no streaks, it becomes tough to break, and like gets me a little bit worried about that. But I don't know. I'm a little concerned about how Control might play in a 4v4, especially if we have no streaks.
Needs to be tweaked.
So. I think we're all in agreement that Dom's probably the most likely at this point. I mean not Dom. Control is the most likely at this point as the third game mode.
Wait,
I mean
Dom?
Not Dom.
No,
he messed
Control.
Up. He screwed up.
I said Control.
Okay.
I fixed myself.
T-rashed.
All right. Yes. So anyway, I feel like Control's got to be the most likely.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the pros are going to say. Control. I think everyone's going to say Control no matter what. So
the old school pros might want CTF. I mean, I think CTF is fun. I mean, it was really fun in World War II. But
yeah, but if the maps are too big,
the maps matter.
We're playing Arclov Peak CTF. Like, nah.
Yeah, exactly. That's the biggest question. So,
thank you.
Score streaks. What do you think about the score streaks thing? The multiplier is really, really weird. So, I mean, like we talked about this. I talked about this in my video a little bit, but basically, if you're going for like a chopper gunner and normally it would be like a 16 kill streak in a normal COD. In this one, if you got 1 kill then died, 1 kill then died, 1 kill then died, it would take like 100 kills to get, but you would get it if you got 100 kills that way. because your score streaks do not reset on death. And but it is a multiplier for going on kill streaks and score streaks. Where are you out? How do you feel about that? What's the feelers there, Rex?
I mean, if it's really, tweaked and balanced really, really well for competitive, then I respect it. And I think it's great. Gets people to, I guess, play the objective more if it's just me, playing a competitive map. But pro scene, I don't know. It's always something about just like the standard, like they're on a 5 kill streak, they unlock the predator missile,
Yeah.
Rather than mean, if they get one more kill, they died. Well, they still just one more kill, they're getting that pred missile. It's
that I agree. It's a little weird, and like with smaller streaks, again, they were using the example for big streaks. Like, okay, you don't want some guy to have a chopper gun every game. Yeah. But in pubs, I don't think you really mind if every guy on the team gets a lightning strike every game. But in competitive, if every guy is getting a lightning strike,
that changes the game.
That changes the whole game. Like that's going to get GA'd.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't see a world how competitive could possibly play without the streaks resetting on death.
Didn't they come out with a tweet saying like they would consider like changing that for competitive to just be kills?
It's
just
possible.
Give us the option for it.
Give us the option to.
But again, it's good news that the pros are like, so many pros got the beta code. Like that's huge. I mean, we didn't even mention that, but like,
alpha code.
In the review, or the alpha, all of the whole competitive content team was there, like Maven, Merc, Nameless, those guys were all there talking about the game and broadcasting it, which is great. And tons of pros. It feels like every team at least had one guy who got a code.
I think so.
Yeah.
Seemed like that's pretty dope. Yeah. I mean, considering how few streamers were really invited overall, like it's pretty sick that there was that many people from the pro scene that were able to play it. Yeah. And that's a really good sign early on, which gets me pumped.
Plus all the tweets from Tony Flame. That dude is...
The communication is
so far so good.
Oh, yeah. Gets me going.
Magnifique.
Oh, wow.
I'm caught between.
What are you caught between?
Rock and a hard place. Tony, my man, keep it up, bro.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's awesome. Yeah, I mean, we've already heard about there's no flinch, which is really weird. I mean, I guess I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
there's a high headshot multiplier, but now with no flinch, like you really have to aim high. Like you're gonna have to aim high in this game, which is gonna be interesting. So I wonder if there's gonna be multiplayer, competitive tweaks for that.
The slide canceling.
The slide canceling is back.
But they fixed it. They said the alpha build that they were playing had a quote
unquote broken slide mechanic.
And apparently for the beta it's already been fixed. So like that's cool.
So what's that gonna look like?
Hopefully it's just like you cannot cancel out of it, maybe even.
Or something like BO4 slide where like it's a built-in slide cancel.
Who knows?
I don't know. It is weird. Gunsmith, I mean, it's a little weird. Competitively, definitely not ideal, right? Yeah. I mean, you can you're guaranteed 5 attachments like Modern Warfare, and then you get 3 perks, and then there's a wild card. And you spawn in with a nade, a stun, or a nade or an equipment. Yeah. And there is DS, which is great news. Yeah. So everyone's going to be running DS. DS is not completely silent, though. So it's kind of like some of the past CoDs where you actually, you could, in theory, still sound horn, but it'll fix the respawn problems of sound horn, which is great. But the wild card is kind of the X factor here, because the wild card, I don't know how that's going to play out competitively. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. The wild cards allow you to have either 6 perks or an extra 3 attachments. So 8 attachments on a gun. That is insane.
It's wild.
I mean, where are you at with this? Sam, what do you think about it?
I don't know. It's going to be really weird. Because depending on the perks, you could see like a lot of like it could create a lot of variation in gameplay, right? Like like you have someone going perk heavy, right?
Yeah, depending on how many perks there are.
Yeah. You could have someone deck out their gun and like make it like a insane sniper or same assault rifle. I don't know, like I could honestly see the wild card being GA'd. Like
I agree,
not even uses the wild card at all. So, because then that would create, everyone's got the lethal.
It's what it is in
tactical.
Modern Warfare.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I have a very strong feeling that it's gonna get just GA'd right at the get go, just because
Yeah,
like
probably.
that's crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, Rex.
It's just a lot to take in quality of life wise, but if they have like
Yeah.
the percentage based like upgrading to it,
Yeah, that was cool.
I think that's great. That makes it much more clear about what's going on. But
Dude, yes.
yeah, that's the big thing for me. But otherwise, I don't know. Like, I'm not necessarily trying to play like a role playing game with it. I'm just trying to play COD, and I want simple things that my mind can comprehend pretty easily.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all right.
Exclusive Ace gotta be pissed. All of his videos of like how much percentage of damage this has increased are all gone now, man.
They sure are.
Rip Drifter and Exclusive Ace's in-depth series.
Yep.
I mean, I guess you gotta test them to make sure they work right,
You
but
do. Yeah.
that is crazy. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I love like the percentage increase telling us how much. We don't gotta deal with FMJ increasing damage by 4 bars because they don't do that. Although there's not even gonna be FMJ in the game anymore.
Yep.
Because they said that now FMJ or like bullet penetration is solely determined on LMG, ARs, and SMGs, a set one per category. So that's cool. That really makes the game more consistent instead of gun to gun. Like, oh, how much bullet penetration does the MP5 have versus the Vector, or whatever. Insert gun here. Like that's nice to have for sure. So I like that a lot. Were you happy about time to kill? Were you happy about everything else that we saw, the potential advertisement for COD? Like, what other thoughts about Cold War? Anything else you got, Rex?
Other than the Call of Duty World League
Guns
advertisement,
yeah,
in the bottom right, that was the big one I saw. But I thought Time to Kill was okay. I thought I had no qualms with it at all. But I thought Time to Kill was all right.
I agree. It's a little bit faster than BO4, quite a bit slower than Modern Warfare.
Yeah.
I think it's nice. I like it. Sam?
Yeah. From what I saw, I'm very excited. I am just still I wasn't excited about. I thought they're really hitting hard on like the ground war style of play.
They were
the vehicles,
really hitting
a ton
hard.
of vehicles,
The maps,
all of that, which I really like. I don't care about. I don't like playing ground war. I'm not a BR guy myself, but I really want to see more of the competitive maps. That's really what I'm hoping for in the beta.
because Miami didn't feel very competitive. Again, that one Russian map, I think it was called Moscow, was okay.
Yeah.
Besides that,
Yeah.
I don't think there was anything else that was anywhere close to being competitive. I
Yeah.
don't think Miami was competitive either, but that was the next best one.
So that everything else looked really cool. I'm really hyped. But
Yeah.
really like the one thing that's like still kind of putting a little red flags is just the maps. I really hope they continue to do their
we need to
classic
see more in the beta.
3-lane style maps. So
I mean, I guess I'm a little bit. I'm not happy about the grenade spam, which we're still gonna have, which is annoying. Like I don't love the spawning with a nade, spawning with a stun every single life situation. I would have preferred if it was just one or the other. And so you got 4 guys, you got 2 guys running nades, 2 guys running stuns or smokes or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I would have preferred that than like getting one every life. But I'll give that if I get the rest of what Black Ops is kind of offering right now. So anything else you want to say about Modern Warfare? Are we wrapping up here? We done?
Cold War?
Oh, that's what I meant. Cold War,
How dare
COD 2020.
you.
But boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, that is the podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed it. A lot to go on. I mean, drop all your comments down below about Modern Warfare. What do you guys think about Dashy? What do you guys think about the Huntsmen? What do you guys think about this potential Rokkr? Maybe it's been announced by the time this goes live.
Probably.
And a lot more. So drop all your comments down below. Drop a review on Apple Podcasts. We do appreciate that. And thanks to everybody who's already been doing that. We do read them, like you guys heard earlier. And we appreciate y'all. So, as always, I'm your boy, SalvationsElite. To my right is Bash_Bo3. To our farthest right is Rex, Shady, Nero. And guys, we will see you next time. We out.